Kia ora and welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod, our final episode for the year. And to celebrate our final episode, we got some new digs.
How good.
Look at this.
How good.
Thanks to all the tech guys at Sky, set up in a flasher studio with flasher lighting. It kind of shows our flaws a little bit more, probably, James Parsons.
Oh, it suits my neck, though.
Yeah, it does. It does.
The lack thereof.
Excellent movement all round. We'll also celebrate having this new studio by inviting Bryn Hall in with a brand new moustache. Excellent innovation and technology there, Brenna.
Yeah, Nacho Sanchez reporting live from Japan here, lads. Really nice to see you. So, but no, I've been told that I look a little bit like my dad. So hopefully he can watch this episode and he can give me a few pointers of the moustache is looking like it should be.
It's definitely not as thick as his, but it's along the same lines.
Well, that's it, mate. A bit of maturity. So I've got a few more years to get to old Tommy T's moustache. But no, look, all for a good cause.
What's a bigger compliment, looking like your dad or looking like Richard Kahui, maybe?
Can't go past Richard Kahui. I'll take that to the grave there, and probably I'll tell it to my girlfriend as well. So I'm sure love hearing that.
Coming up, we've got what's going on in Wales. Losing to Georgia. What happened with England throwing a game away? You know, not going for the win at all. A season wrap. How did Ardie miss out on the Team of the Year at the World Rugby Awards? And of course, congratulations to all the people who made all the awards and won the awards. Lots to chat about, and then maybe even a couple of embarrassing moments from the lads along the way. So
this is a stitch up.
Yeah, it is a stitch up. And if I refer to the wrong camera,
bear with me.
Bear with me, because I'm getting used to it. So, lads, let's start off with the World Rugby Awards with a game of yes, no, and why. If your answer is no, I want to know why. If your answer is yes, we'll stick with the hallowed panel from World Rugby who came up with the choices. Players of the Year, Josh van der Fleer and Ruahei Demant. Yes, Chipper?
Yes to Ruahei. I think it's not just about performance. It's probably more around that leadership and how they turn things around and how she's sort of the figurehead of that, and obviously performance as well. Josh van der Fleer, very rare that I wouldn't agree that a forward should win World Player of the Year, but I just think Johnny Sexton was probably unlucky in the sense that, man, when he's missing, Ireland aren't the same team, and I just think his influence on games and how critical he is to their success maybe had him ahead in my head of Van der Fleer, but for what Van der Fleer did down here and the physical dominance he's had against every opposition, he is a worthy winner, but I probably thought Johnny Sexton would nudge him out.
Bryn, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with the Demant. She obviously deserved it, had a great World Cup, and then I think also even before that, playing the Australians and that New Zealand period where they played against the Canadians as well. So, definitely deserving of winning that award. But I think very similar to Jim, I think Johnny Sexton, look, I don't think they win a lot of these games without him. And if you say most valuable player, and also his performance was due as well. He played very, very well in the game. So I would have gone Johnny Sexton, but I think where the game is at the moment around the breakdown area, physicality and that, Van der Fleer was great around that, coming into the New Zealand tour, playing those 3 games, influencing that, and then his Six Nations, and then even in the back end of this Northern Hemisphere tour, he's a deserved person of that. But I would have personally gone for Johnny Sexton, similar to what Jip was saying, his influences and how he can, how valuable he is for that Ireland team.
And is this your selections based on the finalists? Would you have taken Ardie above all of them?
Oh, I would, yeah. I just think you talk about impact on a game. Maybe he is a close contest for me with Johnny Sexton, because Johnny Sexton is just so key to results, but also not just results, his decision-making as captain. He is ruthless about going to the corner and chancing his arm, and he just backs himself in his ability. But Ardie, I don't know. I just can't think of another player that has had the influence and what has been a struggle at times for the All Black forward pack, that he has just dominated every side of the ball, every collision. It blows me away that he missed out on the... and I think it would blow a lot of people around the world. I don't think it will just be a Southern Hemisphere thing. I think a lot of people up in the north really respect what Ardie's done.
Short of naming and shaming the people who selected this, when the entire world, Bryn, is going, what? How is Ardie Savea not in the dream team? How is he not even the best number 8 in the world? Never mind the best player in the world, according to this panel, who have gone with Aldred.
Yeah, well, that's not to say that Aldred hasn't had a great season, but I think for us, I think when the announcement came for World Player of the Year, I think the most comments that were saying that was around Ardie Savea. not been involved in that. Look, we've voiced our opinion around. I think he should have won it as well, and I think, I'd like to see what the criteria is, because, no disrespect to but, he missed the majority of a lot of the season. And so, he's missed part of the rugby championship. He's missed part of this India tour. So, is that decision made even before going into the Northern Hemisphere tour? Because, look, I thought Ardie was great. So, but, and then not even to make the 15. That's not saying Aldred hasn't had a great season, but look, Ardie Savea has been, like you said, we would take him for World Player of the Year. So to not get nominated for number 8, it's very, very interesting.
I think with Aldred, it's not a slight on him as a player. Like, he is a fantastic number 8. He gets great gain line. He's great defensively. But I go back to, as an individual player, the ability to change a game and turn it on its head or save a game defensively, I don't think there's a better number 8 at the moment, a better loose forward at the moment than Ardie Savea.
It's incredible. I'm kind of blown away. I'm speechless, but there is some weird stuff going on here. The women's team, instead of picking Tui on the right and Woodman on the left, they picked them the other way around. So I don't know what game these people are watching. That's just bizarre. But big ups to Ruby Tui for Breakthrough Player of the Year. I think she acknowledged herself, at 27 years of age. That's an unusual thing to do. But when you look at the way that she affected the game, it's hard to argue that she is the breakthrough 15th Player of the Year. Similar
to Nehi Minuskata in a way. Like, he was a little bit older, he came onto the scene, had the hot feed and really busy on the wing as well. And Ruby's exactly the same. Like, her impact, her work off the ball, her ability to put herself in the game and make big plays at crucial times, for someone that has had a massive load of 7s. And I think it's good reward, because she made the decision to go, no, I'm all in 15s and this is what I'm going after. So, I think for her to be acknowledged as a breakthrough 15s with the application and the desire she's shown this year to be the very best version of herself in the 15s game is fair reward for the work that's gone in.
So that's a yes from you on Ruby?
That's a big yes, yes.
A yes from you on Ruby as well?
Yeah, definitely. For all those points that Jip talked around, there's a very long time that she hasn't been involved in the 15s games for a long period of time. We know how successful she's been at the 7s game, but she talked around early in Super Rugby Aupiki, wanting to improve her game when it came to the 15s. Look, she brought in a chip and chase very early and wanting to work on her skill set. But then all the points that Jip talked around how she was at that Rugby World Cup, but what she does do as well, she's a great ambassador for the game. The amount of bums that she puts on seats, she's something different, probably really refreshing, actually. You don't see it a lot in the men's game, and it's quite refreshing to see her personality being able to be, supported from all around the world with how she is. So definitely deserving of her performances, and I think what she does for the game as well on a bigger stage, brand-wise, and putting women's rugby out there is really important as well.
Brendan, any doubt that Ange Kapawatso is the breakthrough of the men's team? Like, he was amazing again on the weekend.
Oh man, he's my new favourite player. I player tracked him for that first 30 minutes in the Italian game, even though he didn't get a lot of opportunities. But geez, if you're talking about a superstar and speed, he's got it all. The ability that you can have to be able to beat people on a dime. If he gets into space, he's got that speed and being able to really inject himself into a game. So look, Italy have had a great back end of this Northern Hemisphere tour. So he's been at the focal point of that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him at the Rugby World Cup, and hopefully Italy can continue that positive form that they've had in this back end of the Northern Hemisphere tour.
And for you?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Your comparison to Billy Slater, I watched him this week, and his ability to go from a blind angle to pop out into the open and more so that try score, but he does a number of other times. He is a serious weapon, but also courageous on defence. Like, he puts his body on the line. Reminds me a little bit like Damien McKenzie. They don't have a lot of care for their body when they're not big lads. But yeah, he's got a massive future, and he will be the poster child for Italian rugby for a long time, I'd say.
Absolutely. The other one, of course, I'm presuming is going to be yeses all round on Wayne Smith. Like, what an incredible job he did.
Yeah, I mean, just not expected. He didn't go into this year expecting to be coaching the Black Ferns. He's got them to a position where they're the best in the world. I do think we've got to acknowledge Andy Farrell, having the ability to bring Ireland down here and do a demolition job on the All Blacks on home soil is a massive achievement as well. And also the fact that they're dominating most sides and winning ugly at the moment. To be fair, they're not playing their best footy, but he's also been ambitious with the Irish A team. He's been going between the two jobs, so he's had a fantastic year. But in terms of massive results and someone starting probably back against against the wall in Wayne Smith and where he's finished up is huge.
Probably just as importantly, is there anyone who would beat out Bryn for World Moustache of the Year?
I think Pete Samu would be up there because Bryn tries to copy him all the time. But I still think big Carl Tuinukuafi takes the cake.
Yeah, he'll have that award until the end of time.
Yeah, I think he will. I'm just, definitely not at that stage at all. My dad might be able to be a little bit different. His is thick and obviously got a bit more girth to it.
Longevity of achievement is something that Wayne Smith's done, and that's probably important for Bryn Hall as well, to understand that if you want it to be a great moustache, you're going to have to stick by it for years.
You're going to have to commit to it like your old boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the fact that you're saying I'm Richard Kahui, Ross, I might change my mindset around it. So, but it does look dirty. I do look very dirty. Yeah. I don't know about that.
Now, the talking point of the weekend, I think, well, from almost everyone, was, would you settle for a draw? Would you settle for a draw?
Oh, I don't think when the stakes are that high and you're in front of your home fans, I think they probably got a little bit overexcited from where they'd got to get to, the position and probably thought, let's just, from where we were 8 minutes ago to where we are now at the 80th, let's get rid of it. But if you watch Marcus Smith when he kicks that conversion, he does not waste any time. He kicks it, he turns around and he sprints back to halfway. To me, that's a young man. He is an attacking player and he was going, I'm going to come down here and score some more points and win this game. And you could see when he kicked it out, I felt like it might have been a directive because he was not happy. And you could see forwards saying, get it out. So I don't know. I don't think everyone in that team was in all agreement, but sometimes you have to disagree and commit as teammates, and that's what Marcus Smith did. But all his body language said he wanted to have a W next to their name.
It's so weird to commit to not winning. What a bizarre thing to do, Bryn.
Oh, I think so, but there's probably two things. Actually, hearing Owen Farrell's conversation after the game is that they came in as a group and talked around if they were going forward and they were able to build momentum and get on the front foot ball, then they would have had an attacking brain. But I think for the fact that, you know how hard it is if you play out of your zone and you give away a penalty or you knock the ball on, then you're giving yourself an opportunity to give it to the All Blacks. And so,
they'd done it with ease, like in that last 8 minutes, in terms of counter-attacking, in terms of, one of the biggest players that probably came off was Dalton Papali'i, who was slowing their ball down all night, and he was in there. And once he came off, they were just getting that front foot ball, and then they didn't have that backfield defence, so guys were trying to cover too much. Their actual ability to have front foot ball from that kickoff is right there. It was a short kickoff. They're 60 out. I don't know. I don't quite buy that. I think they panicked and they just thought, geez, we've done really well to get it to a draw. Let's just take it and get out of here.
Well, that's what I mean. But the 71st minute, if you saw it 25-6 and you get yourself into a position where it's 25-all after a game, they'll be thinking, we'd take that. You know what I mean? But for us,
wouldn't you think though, we weren't in this to win it. We weren't even in the. We were going to lose this game. So your chips are all in at that stage, are they not? I mean, at least have a crossfield kick to try and score, and maybe it gets knocked on and the game's over. I don't know. I just maybe. It's all well and good. I'm sitting here and I'm not in the pressure cooker. I may have seen it differently if I was captain as well. But I just think they were not in that game, and then they were all of a sudden, on level pegging and with a last try wins mindset is what I was thinking.
Well, that's for me. That's our attacking brand. Even Rico said after the game, if they were in the opposition and they had the same situation, they'd go for the win. You know what I mean? So I agree. I would have definitely wanted to have gone for the win. For the fact that 71 minutes had gone and you got yourself into a position, you weren't going to win anyway. In that position where we weren't really going to win, but you got yourself into a position to win a Test match against the All Blacks. You know what I mean? So. I guess I think even Eddie Jones said after the game he trusted the decisions of the players, but I think inside, I could see a little bit of a smirk thinking that he probably would have won the game as well.
Before Stewart's, sorry, I'm going down a
go down the rabbit hole.
Before Stewart scored that try, did you not feel, Brynner, that Ardie was on that ball for long enough at that breakdown?
Yeah. I was just thinking, when that happened, because, Ardie's done some really good things just before half time and those kind of positions, getting that ball to be able to win games or stop the momentum just before half time. But I 100% thought he lifted that ball clearly, even looked at him, and then obviously the referees told him to release it. But yeah, I thought at that moment we should have got that penalty as well.
Yeah,
but again, it's in England. It's in England and Twickenham, and all the crowd was going and all the momentum. So didn't want to blow that whistle, I guess.
And he had the World Rugby selection panel in his ear going, no. Don't give it to
Don't let him be the match winner.
No match-winning plays for Ardie, not this week.
He gave away that many penalties on the weekend, so just blow one more.
And in the end, in the last 10 minutes, the All Blacks went off the boil and didn't deserve to take the win.
Yeah.
So that's how it works, right? Big question for you, Brynner. If you were a halfback in the last 10 minutes of that game, would you have been taking dinky little box kicks like both sides halfbacks did when the game was in the balance?
Well, I definitely remember Youngs' one when he tried to do that. I think he must have thought there would have been someone chasing that ball because there was a bit of space there, but obviously seeing through that reaction and no one chasing there, especially in that moment, I thought he'd lost the test match in that kind of box kick there. But I'm not too sure around. I think if TJ, had his time again, he's probably going to put that away. It might just be a contestable kick instead of a dink over. But again, there might have been a call for a little dink play, or it was just a selective of what his thought process was around doing that kick. But I probably think that TJ would want that one back, me personally, and also gut wrenching for him to be able to just hear that he's out for 9 months. So he's done so well to get back, and so really terrible news for him to be able to get that injury at this time of the year.
Do you think his thinking was, I'm not sure, I think Mark might have been in that breakdown. And then I think Ardie was there to chase. And then the conditions did seem a little bit, I don't know, it wasn't easy to handle the ball. And I was thinking, was he hoping it would kick on and maybe force an error because he didn't have, obviously, his winger up? Because they were under pressure.
Possibly.
They were under pressure, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
There was a lot of bodies on the ground, and they were right under the pump. I think Geordie Barrett crashed it up because there were so many forwards in the other ruck.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. So, there were a lot of bodies on the floor, and so, whether being able to use it to kick from 10, probably tough in that position. And so sometimes when you do get that kind of tops kick, it actually does bounce up in the air. You can actually flood that and then counter ruck from that because obviously, it can bounce up and makes it a little bit easier when that running is through. Ardie Savea, you see who was there at that time, Drip. So, but again, it's all outcome focused around what we're saying now. But at the time, that could have possibly been the thinking around it might pop up. You can flood through, a bit greasy. And it's a bit harder to be able to attack from that edge as well.
Losing your fullback defensively, Bryn, you'll know that. You always talk about the pendulum. It doesn't allow you to get off your line because there's just too much to cover, and it makes you passive defensively. That didn't enable them to slow the ball down. So it wasn't really changing of a game plan as such. It was just the fact that they lost their fullback, put them in a really compromising position defensively, and they just couldn't win those collisions that they'd been winning earlier in the match.
When you've got kind of a man down, the collision and the breakdown area is so much more important to be able to slow down the ball because, you might only have one fullback instead of having two back in the boot covering that kick space. And so you've got to be able to manipulate it a little bit better. And so, the physical, more so just England really in that moment, the execution, their physicality, Ben Youngs and his ability to be able to get the ball out quick, where I thought, the other halfback at times was a little bit messy around the delivery and the pressure that we were able to put on through his kicking and the running game, and passing game, sorry. So I think it just all clicked. And for whatever reason, maybe a bit of magic dust that Eddie Jones said after the press conference, after the game. But I think the collisions, the physicality, the execution and the ball in hand that they did play, they knew they had to score points. And so they were running and they were animating really, really well as well. So, and sometimes, Jip, you'll know this, when a team's got momentum, it's really hard to stop when you're like that. And so it's more so just holding on. And I guess it was trying to hold on to the 80th minute, knowing that Bodie wasn't coming back for the last 10.
I think if there wasn't a yellow card, the All Blacks win that game. I think it put them under a huge defensive pressure. Like you could just see, probably the indecision to rush. Have we got that coverage, a kick coverage, and Stewart's try ran between because they're trying to cover the outside and the other guys are covering the inside and no one's covering him. And that's all because of that inability to be effective in the tackle to slow the ball down. It just doesn't give you time to make decisions. And they were ruthless in their application and they took full advantage of it.
Why wouldn't you have two people back and just take someone out of the front defensive line?
Yeah, there's that option. And sometimes, a lot of the time, you almost say don't hunt at the ruck. But we did still get caught a number of times. We'd be making tackles, on the back foot, and then a couple of guys were still trying to hunt for the ruck. Whereas that just, that's 3 bodies there. You've got one in the bin, so you've got 11 people trying to defend against, probably 12 or 13. So there's a number of things, and I don't think that wasn't what happened, but the speed of the ball just did not allow them to get people in the right positions.
There are 2 elements to this question. Is it a successful season based on the entire body of work? And is it a successful season considering what they did after the disaster? You first, Bryn.
I think from where we were, we were pretty disappointed around the start of the campaign. But I guess for us, and seeing the improvements of where we are, I think it does make us a little bit more optimistic going into the 2023 World Cup. Look, I look at our set piece, especially the line-out maul defence of Jason Ryan coming into the squad. We had a line-out maul scored against us in the transition area, has been a lot better. Our attacking game, when it comes to our attacking kicks now, you'd have to say probably 12 to 24 months ago, we didn't have that, and we weren't able to deal with line speed pressures. But we saw on the weekend with Geordie, Bodie, Richie, when you've got the ability to be able to kick off numerous people, you can manipulate the backfield in different ways to be able to try and counter that line speed attack. So that's been an improvement in our game. And then also, I think there's been some great work with our younger forwards coming through. Tokiaho, our props, have really, really come on in the last probably 6 to 7 test matches. And so probably a weak area last year. We talked around the skill set and where our props were, a lot of questions around that. And I think we've really developed that. So there are some positives around where we have been. But I think, if we're talking around it with the All Blacks, bar that Irish series, the improvements that we've made in the season, I think we're in a good place for us to 2023 to continue to jump to where we need to be. We're not a full product, we're not fully finished, but I think the improvements that we have had makes us a lot better, a lot more positive going to that 2023 World Cup.
I think it's a pass easily, purely based on trophies. We go out there to win trophies, and apart from the Irish series, we've picked up or kept, due to a draw, every other trophy. So I don't know. I just think you got the Bledisloe, you got the Rugby Championship. You've had a slow start on the end of your tour, but I was really impressed with the way the 23 operated, especially against Wales, and then the way the bench came on and finished it off in Scotland. Massive slip up against England when we're in a position to dominate and ram it home, but I think we're in a good place, especially because I think a lot of people still underrate us. And I just think that's a dangerous place for people to put them against a side that has proven history of winning World Cups.
If you were to put a percentage on it, what percentage would you put on Whitelock being captain and Papali'i being at open side, or Sam Cane being captain and open side, Bryn?
Great question. But I think, Sam Cane's the captain, and he's been trusted with that responsibility, and who knows what that's going to look like next year. But I think what it does do, Dalton's continue to keep putting pressure on him, and so you talk around competition and being able to keep that edge at training and edge in the week within Super Rugby. Sam Cane's going to get that because you've got a young guy that's continued to keep performing. What I thought he was outstanding on the weekend, not just that try, but what he does around the field that we continue to keep talking about, and so. It's going to be a great 2023 and see the progression. And I guess we talked around Richie and Bodie. That conversation, it looks like that, Sam Cane and probably Dalton Papali'i will be a massive talking point for us next year based on how well Dalton's been playing.
And what would you do right now, Bryn? What would your call be right now?
Dalton, I think right now, for me, if you're just based on performance, I would go Dalton. He's played very, very well. But then again, Sam's leadership skills, you can't take away what he brings to that group when it comes to leadership styles. And so anytime you can have that, it's really important. And so that'll be important going forward. But right now with how Dalton's playing and Sam hasn't been playing, Dalton.
How would you weigh up those 2 elements?
I think you've got to consider not just form of play, but the ability to know what to do in pressure moments. There's a lot of experience with Sam Cane. He is the captain. He has the changing room. So I think it would be a unique situation to be changing a captain at World Cup time, in my opinion. You have to stick with it. But even if he's named captain, Sam's not the sort of person that would ever put himself, the individual, ahead of the team. And if Dalton's playing better at the time, that doesn't necessarily mean whether he's named captain or not that he's guaranteed that 7 jersey.
And you could be looking at a point where you're going, okay, we've almost got dual captains because Sam might not be an 80-minute player. and the people will have to get used to the fact that the captain might not be on at the death.
Yeah, potentially, but I think it's too early to make those calls. I think Super Rugby plays a big part. We've seen it time and time again before. Like, look at how many injuries at 9. Like right now, you talk about the 9s. You're probably looking at Finlay Christie and Brad Weber with Aaron Smith going into. I don't know if we were here a week ago. TJ's banging that door down. We've got Folau Fakatava who's skipping surgery to have a real crack to rehab it to give himself potentially a return for the World Cup. So I think there's a lot of positions up in the air, which is not a bad thing.
What is a bad thing is what's going on in Wales right now. Goodness me, it is a tough gig. They, out of all of the Northern Hemisphere teams, well, I mean, put Italy to the side, they're up and down, but the Welsh, you don't know what's going on there, what's going to turn up. It seems like their system, after seeing Warburton's comments, it might be stuffed from bottom to top, and then they're losing to Georgia.
Yeah. I think the thing that frustrated me the most about this game was in the first half they were dominating, right? They had a disallowed try, but then they were in a position twice in the 22 where they just put an aimless scrubber through. I think it was Reece Samet, getting an opportunity at fullback. He put a kick through when he should have just gone through the hands, and they would have eventually broke down the Georgian defence. And then the 9 just put a tops kick to no one at the 40-minute mark when you could be going in and scoring points just before the break. And how crucial does that become when you look at the fact they couldn't get their hands on the ball, they couldn't get any parity at scrum time, and that was the winning and losing of it is at scrum time. And defensively, they created too many opportunities for Georgia to get down there. But I think they just maybe took things for granted. And in a place that loves rugby potentially just as much as New Zealand and South Africa, maybe more. I don't know. They are that passionate about footy. There will be a lot of fans asking a lot of questions, just as we've seen, for the All Blacks this year.
How worried would you be if you were Wayne Pivac, Bryn?
Well, you'd have to be pretty worried because, results are massive around this, and, losing to Georgia, especially in that country where you're talking about, Jip, around how passionate they are and the expectations of that group. It's not looking good. I think it's unacceptable, really, to lose a game like that to Georgia. That's no disrespect to Georgia. They played well. It's great to be able to have that scalp and have their first win against Wales. But if you're the Welsh, you're pretty disappointed, and some serious questions will probably need to be asked, because a Welsh team going down to Georgia like that, and even at set piece wise at scrum times, we know that Georgia's has a very dominant scrum and forward pack. But, in that moment, you'd expect a team like Wales to be able to get the job done there. And so, some very big questions coming ahead for Wayne and that coaching group moving forward.
Again, a test match that I think was decided by the yellow card. Adams was off, and the scrum was about that 15-minute mark, so they had to mark the blind. And then they were smart enough, Georgia, to play to the line, go out the back, crossfield kick to exactly where the yellow card player would have been. Similar to the Black Ferns in the final, they just manipulated the situation that was at hand, but executed it so well. So I think they're completely deserving of their victory, especially around their set-piece dominance in that second half. I mean, they were calling them the second bomb squad, that reserve front row, and they certainly delivered on it. But it's just, shows how crucial discipline's going to be World Cup. You will get knocked out if you put yourself in a position where you're yellow carded or red carded. It is so hard to win test matches with 15 on 15 at the moment, and how close everything is. This World Cup could be decided on a discipline issue.
That brings us to Australia, Bryn, because they have that same issue, don't they?
No, they do. Look, they were, just another one where you think back and you look back, how many games have gone in this direction in such tight moments. And so, that first half they dominated position and territory, and just weren't able to get over the line, and I guess get that scoreboard pressure of being able to score the points when they had their moments. And so, one that really got away from them. And so even at times, even late in that piece, they had the opportunity to win that match. But when it's going to come to discipline, I think for them the biggest thing is trying to adapt. It's trying to adapt in the discipline areas. And I think that sits well for Australia and probably the whole of World Rugby international teams going ahead, because it looks like you're going to be playing games with yellow cards, with a red card, different interpretations from refs, and being able to have, you look at the All Blacks, 17, 16 penalties from each team, and it's been able to have the guys that can adapt well. And so, but we did say at the start of this series that there were a lot of guys that were injured, And I know the results haven't gone their way, but they have been competitive. And to be honest, they should have won maybe 3 of those test matches due to 1-point losses. So you can take confidence in that. And I know there's probably a bit of rumblings around Dave Rennie and whether he should be there, but I think they've shown enough that I think they can still win they can still be in a place to be able to win the Rugby World Cup because of how the style of brand that they do play and the consistency. When they do get it right, they can beat any team on their day.
Do they need to potentially, like we do tongue-in-cheek about your load there in Japan, but do they potentially need to look at that with the amount of injuries, especially soft tissue ones? Tani Alatupo is another one that went down. I know it was after a dominant scrum, but there does obviously something needs to change because they can't keep being without this many key personnel. And I think we've spoken about the consistency of selection. It's probably failed for them in the sense that because they haven't had that relationship with each other, you look in that first half, how many opportunities they had, but they didn't, take them. Whether it was through lack of creativity with the 21 phase to then, get a turnover penalty, but also they struck down that right-hand side. And if they'd just taken one more ruck rather than sort of throwing a reckless offload, they score potentially later. So there's elements of their game that they need to be a little bit more ruthless. Like at some stages they hold the ball for too long and don't kick. And then other times they don't score off the first phase and then kick. Or they throw a reckless offload. So I think their balance of attack has always been an issue, especially if they're not winning those collisions. So there's an element that there needs to be clearly a review, but there does need to be some changes, and I'd say their weekly structure to get the best out of their athletes.
And that comes on to Dave Rennie, obviously a master coach in his time, but a master coach, Brendan, who's dealt with injuries for a long, long time, and maybe it's a look in the mirror situation.
Well, I think that's just it. I think it's really important when you're going through a review process, it's been able to listen to your players. It might not be that case, but, you'd have to think that due to those soft tissue injuries, a lot of injuries, there always seems to be a lot of injuries in and around that camp. So it's going to probably be a review that you might have a look at. You talk through your players, your physios, your SNC, collectively come together and be able to get a plan around, could we do things better, or this might be something that we can improve on so we're not having these kind of issues, because injuries has been a really tough situation for the Wallabies. But what it has done, and I know the results haven't gone their way, but it's given guys opportunities to play in meaningful test matches, which they had the hardest tour, playing against some pretty quality opponents, and that'll set them up really well, hopefully for next year. Can you seriously see them getting past the quarters?
I think I can with the performance I saw against the French. I know the French aren't playing as well as they like, and that's what makes them so good at the moment is they're winning ugly. But I think on their day you can. But I can also see them not making the quarters. Do you know what I mean? In pool play.
Yeah.
Because they have a couple of slip-ups. So, they've got a bit of fine-tuning to do in their preparation. I mean, that's what as we know, Bryn, it's what happens before game day that sets you up for success. And I just think something's not right in that period of time to bring the best out of them.
Because the effort's certainly there. There's plenty of effort.
There is no lack of ticker.
Yeah.
they are trying almost too hard at times, and that puts them under pressure.
Absolutely. The other interesting game from the weekend, South Africa-Italy. Now, Italy kind of had their ups and downs after beating Australia. Got absolutely smoked by South Africa on the scoreboard. What I found really interesting about that South African approach was how innovative they were, Bryn. There were so many interesting new moves and developments in that game.
Yeah, it was. And I think we've probably seen in the last, you probably think of this Northern Hemisphere tour with Willemse 10, the change of their game and the way that they're playing. Faf de Klerk, I think 4 or 5 years ago when they weren't kicking so much, it was all based around that quick ball. And I think on the weekend, that first, even look at the second half, they came over the top. But the way that they were playing, the different types of animation, the different types of moves to try and manipulate and beat teams, it's been really impressive. And so, in the Italians as well. Look, I think they've really, really improved. I love the way that they're playing, even though sometimes it doesn't come off, and probably the level of detail isn't near to the top tier nations. But look, I think the growth that they've shown in their game to be able to attack, and you talk around the players that we've talked about previously, they're in a really good place. But I've loved seeing South Africa running the ball. They've been running the ball and using their outside backs and giving them opportunities to be able to use their flair and their X factor. And so hopefully it's something that we're going to see next year in the Rugby Championship, and even then moving forward to the Rugby World Cup, to have that expansive and attacking style that we've been wanting for a couple of years now.
This game sealed it for me in the sense that they're a dark horse to go back-to-back. And purely because for 50 minutes they were in an arm wrestle. The Italians fronted up physically, and they had a plan B to go to. They were like, right, they're dropping back for our kicks. We're going to run and score from 80 metres out. They just read the pitches that the Italians gave them. Okay, they're all loading up to DL Mall. We're going to do a willy away around the back, and Quagga Smith just goes straight through and scores. So they are on song. When you're making those decisions and you're making those adjustments, and you're also not stubborn enough to stay with what you're naturally good at, shows that they are just going to be a real threat. And it makes you think as a defender, Bryn, you'll know this, you can prep, you can know that they can do that, but it just almost makes you hesitant, and that's all you need to be defensively to create the gap that Quagga Smith went through, or the edge that they got to, and just their ability to, Willemse holds his feet. Sometimes he's standing still for that try that he set up early. Is he's standing still and just picking off defenders, with ease, and his cut-out ball game was exceptional. And
I want to talk about Mani Lebok. That guy can make width
pass
on a field. He can pass.
He can pass.
He can pass, Bryn. Do you like the look of him?
Oh, I do. Look, man, I think it's a bullet. Anybody would love to have that kind of skill set. So, thoroughly impressed, and hopefully can see it a little bit more.
But when you combine him and LaRue, wow, the ability to hit width. Yeah.
Man, he just keeps delivering.
I think 2 years ago, the South Africans hated him. He copped a lot of grief in South Africa, and now I think they probably think the exact opposite.
Yeah, and his ability to swing from one side of attack to the other and make a difference. We talk about Korombedi all the time, but LaRue is really like that. Maybe in a different sense, he's not a blind runner. He'll normally get the ball in hand and manipulate the defence, but he is, not to take it off Lebok, but, he is just a serious... They've just got threats across the park.
Yeah.
And with him, with LaRue as well, Jip, is also his distribution skills and being able to get that ball to the edge. You like your Willemse and Pollard that obviously chuck that in behind the pods, but it's his ability to be on the edge to be able to then square it up. If it's a short ball, if it's a long pass, to get it to those Mopepe or the other wingers as well. Especially when they attack, and he's also got a kicking game with little grubbers as well. So it's that triple threat that he brings, and it's great to see that he's able to use all of those attributes that he does have, and not just the kicking aspect.
And the way he mixes it up when he goes in and control at first receiver with Willemse, you can see how vocal he is, how in control he is of what's going on.
And it also takes the pressure off Willemse, who's still learning his way at 10. When he can play in that sort of second receiver role and someone like LaRue can stand up, it just sets them up for success. Sometimes Willemse was on the wing, they've got the ability to job share, which is again, I always go back to what does it, because the defence will give you the pitches that you need to, attack, and you're constantly going to have to be thinking, okay, well, who's getting it here? Who's running this cutter?
Before we get to the end of the show, a couple of things I want to run by you. If you could be one person in World Rugby, Brynner, at the end of this year, who would you be?
Finn Russell.
Hey!
Russell. I think, man, I watched that game on the weekend for Scotland, and geez, he is just, there's no decision moving forward. You've got to have Finn Russell in that team, because the way that he played and he manipulated that Argentinian game, he was the best man on park by far. So going a little bit left, right, out a little bit. But look, I love Finn Russell, man. I'm really jumped back on the Finn Russell train. So I look forward to seeing him Scotland and the Six Nations moving forward. Hopefully he stays, and they've got that good connection with the coach and player, because he's a hell of a player and was awesome in that Argentinian game.
What about for you?
Oh, Malcolm Marx, why not?
As if
I could only dream to play like Malcolm Marx, have the rig of his.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tossed with this one. Obviously, I think it'd be pretty powerful to be Ardie Savea as well. Just the way they play, but I'm a hooker, and I've got man crush on Malcolm Marx, as we all know.
Who wouldn't you want to be right now?
I think, we spoke about it, but probably Wayne Pivac's under the spotlight the most. He's also a close friend of mine, so it's hard to say that. He'll be under a lot of pressure, but he's also a realist. He'll know that they haven't got things right at the moment, and we speak about South Australia and potentially what they need to change in terms of their preparation. You've spoken about Warburton, who's basically the Richie McCaw of Welsh rugby. I think it speaks volumes that there will need to be some change. I'm not saying that he needs to be the change, but there needs to be a deep dive, because when they are, you look at the way they bossed that Argentinian game, like they've got the performance in them. But as all teams, to be fair, are showing, except for probably, the French and Ireland are still winning games, but it's not really consistent, those performances. So no different to everyone, but the blowtorch losing to Georgia, again, no disrespect, but, between him and Dave Rennie, they're probably the most under the pump.
Yeah, I agree. All those points that Jip said, obviously know Wayne and was coached by Wayne when I was younger, and so it's always hard to be able to talk about that. But I think performance-wise against Georgia, it probably just puts him a little bit more on the hot seat, and it's probably going to be a tough couple of weeks and months moving forward for Wayne. Yeah,
really, really tough. You know what hasn't been a really tough year for? Bryn Hall, 6-time Super Rugby champion. Not a bad year. Cruised off to Japan to see the world. So what we thought we'd do is do maybe the best of Bryn Hall.
Oh,
what do you
let's
think?
see it.
You looking forward to it,
I bet you there's a try at one certain final. That's for sure.
Okay, let's roll tape.
Oh, boy, they stopped them again. They have just short line. The numbers are there. Matera can't make it. Hall puts it on the line. It's a try. It's a try to Bryn Hall. And now the Crusaders have a scoreline to go with their dominance. What a moment.
A big couple of days, if I've been honest. There was. I think I was probably almost missed the bus actually. I think we had a 7:30 bus roll call, and I set my alarm for 7:45 and almost missed it. But thankfully, my mate Sam Whitelock helped me out. And
you would never have missed a bus had you re-signed for the next year. There's no way.
Well, here's a test for Hall. Can he get it in straight? Well, it's been stolen.
Have you got a bone to pick with Brynner about his line-out technique?
Oh, well, maybe not Brynner, maybe the line-out caller. The double slip to the front could have been a good option, not to the middle of the line-out to throw over a Highlander.
I'll tell you what, Jim, I give you forwards. I will never ever talk badly about a line-out throw, because Scott Barrett just confused the hell out of me, to be honest.
Rebels, Brumbies.
Oh, Brumbies. Rebels are terrible. Got to tell them how it is.
Yeah, this is how it is.
Hopefully they can get better. But they've been terrible.
And you guys, of course, up against the Rebels. How do you see that one playing out?
I'll be picking us, and hopefully I won't be injured.
You can just feel a Bryn Hall try.
Just short of the line. Hall has a look over the top. It's a try.
The Crusaders got their win over the Rebels, including a little dot down from you.
Good to get off the mic, actually. No nudie run for me this year, so it's going to be pretty good, obviously. Nobody wants to see me nude, so.
If you would have told me 6 years ago that I was in 6 finals and winning 6 finals, I would have laughed at you. So, and to do it here at Eden Park, it's got such massive special feeling to me personally growing up here. All my family, all my friends, my partner's here, and if it is the last game, what a great way to go out, and I love these boys, love this club, love everything that it's all about, Joey.
Now, winning titles and stuff, that's all good, but what if you were like absolutely revolutionising commentary, like James Parsons? Just going next level on the one-liners.
So you're going to have him winning titles and you're just going to take the mickey out of me?
Well, no, I just said revolutionising is a good thing.
Yeah, no.
Unless you're the person who's having their head cut off.
Yeah.
But
no, I'll be looking forward to this. I love my one-liners.
Yeah. Bruno, was there a favourite of yours through the year? Do you remember?
Oh, just any time I heard James commentating, the enthusiasm that he has, no different from when he was a player. He's very enthusiastic as a player. So anytime I got to hear James Parsons coming in live from, it was very special. So, no, mate, you're doing well, Jipper. Proud of you, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Oh, mate.
Tavita Lee gets a hat trick. Oh, Smooth seas don't make skillful sailors. Harbour have stayed in the fight.
Chipper has been saying some things in commentary which blow people's minds every week. This week, my favourite was starve your distractions, feed your focus.
Mate, talk about work, mate. There's a lot of work that goes into that.
Opportunity doesn't knock, it presents itself when you beat the door down, and that's exactly what Daniel Rona has just done.
I must say that the one-liners have really come on in the past couple of years, and there's a lot of thought and effort has gone to picking the right one for the right moment. It's quite something.
If they say it's too hot in the kitchen, get out. That's not what this Northland team's about. They want to stay in there, roll their sleeves up and go to work.
Throw him to the Wolves and he'll come back leading the pack. I'll be here all day.
Jamie Booth in some space. The little grubber, that's for Sean Stevenson, will get a good bounce.
Well, they say success depends on your appetite. Sean Stevenson and Booth are clearly starving.
Players are giving me feedback that they love it.
I think we all see his one-liners coming into MTC commentators. So I don't know if it's if they got the pass mark this year.
Bryn Gatlin, 0% small talk, 100% grind. Others talk, this man hustles.
It's really intensified this season because I really was like, oh, just make it my point of difference.
And what's your favourite so far?
Winning's not owned, it's leased, and they may have paid their rent in advance.
The magician doesn't trick you, the magician makes you trick yourself. And that's just what the Northland attack have done to the Southland defence.
Goodness me. Feed your focus, Chipper. Feed your focus.
That distraction.
Starve that distraction. Well, hopefully there's no distraction for the two coaches under fire right now. Wales versus Australia this weekend. Who do you think wins?
Australia.
Australia?
Australia. Yep, Australia.
The other game is super interesting. England versus South Africa.
South Africa.
South Africa? Just absolutely.
Well, I couldn't wax lyrical for about 5 minutes like I did just before and then pick England.
Yeah. Okay, Brent?
Yeah, I'll go South Africa, but I think, England, it'll be a tight one. Very similar to pretty much all the test matches that, bar the Italian game, the South Africans have had. Probably go down that route and be very tight, be a matter of moments in that game.
Okay, so one last major prediction. This is our last show of the year, so I'm going to get you guys put on the line. Who wins the World Cup next year?
Oh, mate, I can't not say the All Blacks. It's in me. I call it blind faith.
Yeah,
it's
2-0.
That's 2-0 in South Africa. I'm not going to ever put it out there that they won't.
Go on, Brent.
Look, I think, the All Blacks. But look, I think if it's not going to be the All Blacks, I think it's going to be Ireland. I think the way that they've played and the consistency, I think they've still got room to move in. You have to think Ireland. If it's not the All Blacks, but mate, like Chipper, the 2-0 South Africa, always New Zealand, mate, always. So we wanted them to win the World Cup.
No room for France at home is like leaving Ardie Savea out of the dream team.
I think the French will be there, but hopefully not at our demise.
But it's not the first time either of you have gobsmacked me this year. I really should be ready to...
But, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a dead set given. They're obviously not favourites, but that jersey means a lot to me, so I'd never bet against it.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank you all for watching us all year long. 41 episodes coming to the end of the year. We've got a lot of people to thank. Firstly, the guys on either side of me. James Parsons, thank you very much. Great analysis. Amazing preparation from both of you. Bryn, your commitment at all hours of the day coming out of Japan. 3 a.m, it doesn't matter. You're on the show. So thank you to you guys. You make the show. But there are also a bunch of other people who make this show that we need to talk a little about. We've had guest hosts come in. Jeff, TJ, Joey, which is great. The directors who keep us on track, Kingsley, Scott, Taya, Matt, Will, assistant producers, Wilson, Tom, Kayla. Everyone just thought it was the 3 of us. But there's actually quite a few people who contribute over a year. The editors, Kyle, Will and Ollie. RugbyPass's crew, Alex, Tom, Ned, Sam and Ben. Gus on camera for the first time in the new studio. Thank you, Gus. The tech guys who set up the studio, Cole, Michael, Glenn, and of course the social media crew at Sky and at RugbyPass, Harry, Cam, Shay, Alan, thank you very much for everything you do. And probably finally, thanks to the guests that came on.
Yeah.
Wanted to spend time with us.
Yeah.
Why on earth do they want to do that? I don't know.
Secondly, second to last.
Second to last?
Thank yourself, mate. You've been world class.
Yes.
World class.
World class, Skip.
Yeah.
You've led the ship.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
Captain America. You're Captain America.
Captain America.
Now, can we just roll the tape of these bloopers? Oh, no, we don't have it. Sorry.
Take it away, Jibba. Take it away. Roll tape. This is the best of Aotearoa Rugby Pod this year, including, of course, that classic story from Skolkberger about John de Villiers' follow-through. Best player you've ever played against?
Johnny Wilkinson. He was an absolute student of the game.
Shared a room with John de Villiers for yonks, for ages. And he's such a decent bloke, but give him 2 beers and he turns into something else. He goes absolutely ballistic.
We did promise that no matter who won, who took the trophy home, we wouldn't brag about it today. But I didn't promise that I wouldn't wear Chiefs kit around the house all day. So
That's outstanding. I can hear
he's
him.
walking around the house now, not feeling too happy.
We put a lot of effort into it, and it would be great, like if after all of that effort, there was still something happening, you know, or if everything that we did was for something.
It was a wild, windy test match down in Wellington. I was on the bench and I hadn't played a test match for the All Black, and he just took that game, and as a 10 that wants to control a game, I've never seen anything like it.
And he's lying there and he's letting out some big farts. And I'm like, partner, this is not going to end well. You know, one of them is going to definitely follow through. And my words weren't even out of my mouth, and I could hear something just go, bah.
We do have mental skills help in the background, especially with New Zealand Rugby. We have that resource, but you know, we're lucky that New Zealand Rugby provides that. I don't think every union in the world has that. I think it's the main thing that referees need.
Talking about like wanting to delay the game, I've had that many times where I've been that buggered in test matches and in Super Rugby games. I've just told like my hookers or my front rows to go down because I need a rest.
Hey, mate. Oh, come in here, mate. Come in, mate. Got the big fella.
Goodness
Got the big
me.
fella here.
Welcome, Razor.
All right, you might as well ask him a question. Ross.
What's it like getting a phone call from Wayne Bennett?
Unreal.
Pretty nerve-wracking. This is probably arguably the best lead coach.
What position would you like to play if you did ever cross codes?
Like to say fullback or a running 6, something like that. Use my bird as well.
Depends on the game. Depends on who I'm a little bit with. If I've got Jip next to me in the commentary box, then might have to do a little bit extra. No, that's rough.
It probably doesn't give you space to talk, that Jip.
Most improved team in Super Rugby?
Oh, I think it has to be the Blues. Like the way they performed this season.
They were champions last year, mate. They can't be most improved.
Probably strike weapons is the biggest thing.
Strike weapons. And why do you feel like that's a thing in New Zealand rugby over maybe Australian rugby at the moment? Is that just a matter of the talent coming through, or is that a matter of knowing how to use the talent coming through?
I'll leave that up to Brendan.
Next there, right?
Straight through. And the sheer panic on this bloke's face, like you could see, like he didn't know whether he could get up. He's got white shorts on.
You're loved up. You look very happy, and I'm also it's just how that kind of happened. Is she an Aussie girl, or?
Took me a week to get yarning to somebody over here, and met her, and she turned out to be a pretty amazing woman. So it's something I'd never planned on, and it's come out of nowhere. But thanks for bringing that one up, bro.
You go read those leather-bound books in the background there. You and Ron Burgundy.
They're my own books, actually. I published last year. I just sit down and read about myself pretty much. If you're after something to put yourself to sleep, then I know a pretty good book.
The assistant coach, Gerd Small, comes to him and he's like, John, you really got to call through to the forwards, and he's like, what the hell is that smell? And John's like, no, I'll get the calls through.
Endless amount of first date options, Baden, when you're in a new city. There are places you can take everywhere because you've never been anywhere, right? First date options are all over the place.
Exactly. Like new experiences are every single experience. So like it's all magical at the time at the moment, Ross. So it's just a non-stop honeymoon experience.
You've seen some biceps popping out. In the last
James
while,
Dolman,
yeah.
he's definitely been in the curl rack, surely.
Yeah,
he loves the curl rack, but and he'll love this. But he does. I'm sure he tailors his shirts as well just to make them pop a little bit more.
Has to. That inseam, he just clips that inseam, surely.
It's just an old trick of yours.
Yeah, experience. Experience.
But the panic when he got up, and he took like 2 steps, and then everything started running down his legs into his socks. I could not recover in time for the game. I was basically catching the first kickoff, giggling like this. I was like, how did I just experience this happening? So the bloke basically sprinted off the pitch. I had to call the team manager to bring a new set of jumpers down in a medic. So it was absolutely incredible to witness.